Analysis: U.S. Senate Democrats' bill will make mark on whether healthcare expenses 2.8 Washington. The $430 billion weather alternate, healthcare and tax bill that surpassed the U.S. Congress on Friday objectives to assist lessen the carbon emissions that force climate alternate and decrease medical expenses for older Americans. President Joe Biden's Democrats desire the bill, now surpassed by using both houses of Congress, will boost their possibilities in the November 8 midterm elections, whilst Republicans are desired to recapture the bulk in as a minimum one chamber of Congress. The bundle, called the Inflation Reduction Act, is a dramatically scaled-back model of a prior invoice sponsored by way of Biden that became blocked by maverick Senate Democrats Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema as too luxurious. The invoice will visit Biden to be signed into law. Today is absolutely a glorious day for us. We shipped to the president's desk an enormous invoice on the way to be definitely for the human beings, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, the chamber's top Democrat, told newshounds on Friday in advance of the vote. Republicans blasted the invoice as a spending want list that they argued would harm an economic system weighed down by using inflation, announcing it would kill jobs, raise energy costs and undermine growth at a time while the economic system is dealing with a potential recession. The Democrats' most recent reckless tax and spending spree suffers from an extreme case of coverage whiplash, stated Republican Senator Chuck Grassley. The closing component businesses and households need right now are tax hikes and a rash of poorly vetted regulations, developing even greater confusion and uncertainty in the economic system. About half of Americans, some 49%, aid the bill, including 69% of Democrats and 34% of Republicans, in line with a Ipsos ballot carried out on August 3 and 4. The maximum famous element of the invoice is giving Medicare for older and disabled Americans the power to negotiate drug expenditures, which 71% of respondents support, which includes 68% of Republicans. Economists, who say the legislation may want to assist the Federal Reserve conflict inflation, do no longer anticipate an extensive effect on the economy in coming months. Climate focus: with $370 billion in climate-focused spending, it turned into the most consequential climate alternate invoice exceeded via Congress. The invoice gives companies and households billions in incentives to inspire purchases of electrical cars and energy-efficient home equipment, in addition to spur new investments in wind and sun strength that might double the amount of recent, smooth electricity generating ability coming online inside the United States by way of 2024, in step with modeling by way of the REPEAT project at Princeton University. That could help put the USA on path to meet its pledge to shrink its greenhouse gasoline emissions in half by using 2030 beneath 2005 ranges, made at final year's Glasgow Weather Summit. While environmental groups largely embraced the bill, they mentioned that compromises secured with the aid of Manchin, who represents coal-producing West Virginia, could prolong U.S. use of fossil fuels. Those provisions include regulations that might solely allow the federal authorities to authorize new wind and solar strength developments on federal land, whilst it's also auctioning rights to drill for oil and herbal fuel. Drug costs: the regulation would lower drug charges for the government, employers and sufferers, said Juliette Kubanski, deputy director of the Medicare application at the Kaiser Family Foundation. Perhaps the most important impact could be for humans with prescription drug insurance via Medicare, she mentioned. A key exchange is the availability allowing the federal Medicare health plan to negotiate lower prescription drug prices. Negotiated costs for 10 of the most expensive pills for Medicare could follow starting in 2026, with that variety rising till it caps at 20 a 12 months in 2029. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates Medicare might store $101.8 billion over 10 years via negotiating drug fees. The provision also introduces a $2,000 annual cap on out-of-pocket charges for the aged through the Medicare software. The pharmaceutical industry says fee negotiation will stifle innovation. Tax provisions. The bill additionally imposes a new excise tax on stock buybacks, a past due trade after cinema raised objections over another provision that could have imposed new levies on carried hobby, currently a tax loophole for hedge fund and personal equity financiers. The provision was dropped. The excise tax is expected to elevate a further $70 billion in tax sales per 12 months, lawmakers said.